All right, welcome back to the In the Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Sam Gold.
And I'm his brother and co-host, Max Gold.
Oh, co-host? Is that you just now?
Yeah.
You're just not part of the podcast?
Yep, I'm a part of it every day.
I didn't let you in. I didn't say you could be a part of it, but I guess it's fine. I mean, we kind of look alike, so you just have to swap in every once in a while. No one will notice.
Yeah,
probably.
No one will care or notice.
No one will give a shit. Yeah, you're right. No one will give a shit. All right, but the main reason we're here today is because we want to do a brother head-to-head draft. We love these drafts. It's draft week right now in the NFL. This is a sports podcast. So
WWE draft is this week as well.
WWE is it actually?
Yeah, it's this week.
Oh shit.
We're all SmackDown.
So the two best sports do their drafts at the same time. All right.
Two best entertainment sources in the United States.
Exactly. The two best rigged sports. No. Okay. Well, one is actually rigged, but
yeah, the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, we're here today to do a head-to-head draft on a tier list of, we did the U.S. states, me and producer Al, last week. This time we're doing U.S. cities. As you can see on the tier list here, we have the top 100 by population.
Yep.
But, Max, how about you explain what type of order, how we're going to do this here?
Yeah, so essentially we're going to do 5 cities. It's going to be northeast, which is going to be essentially Maine all the way down to like Virginia, and then over, I guess you can technically also count West Virginia, but I doubt we're going to even do any cities in there.
No one cares.
The south will be North Carolina over, so it'll be North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee,
deep
and
south.
Then like the deep south over to Texas. Texas will count as the south.
All right.
Because Texas can fall into the west, Midwest, and south, but we'll count Texas. Tennessee will also be
It's a big add. It's a big add to the south.
Yeah,
it's a lot of cities right there.
Big add to the south.
All right.
Big addition. A couple cities there. The Midwest will be the next region, which is the third region. That will be essentially what you would think of the Midwest. Ohio over to I would say Ohio over to maybe Kansas, and then everything else would be part of the West. So from Kansas over will be the West. And then West Coast is the what?
I guess it's Midwest. I don't know. It's just the middle. It's just the middle.
I don't know. They're all
you have to pack it in.
They're all still pretty nice there. So that's what
all
the
right.
West will be.
True. Not Kansas City.
But then everything else will be the West. So I don't know. Typical map. I think most of our cities are going to come from similar places, and you'll be like, that's a West Coast city, or that's a Northeast city.
Now we're doing 5 each.
Yes.
And you just listed 4 regions, right?
Correct. Because
so should we do? Here's the thing. You said that we wanted to do a town at the end.
Yeah.
Just to have that. Should we just do 6 and do our top 1 city overall as well?
Yeah, we can do
start?
6, and we can do a best city overall that doesn't matter region or whatever. It's just your personal favorite city.
I guess it's 5 because there's no towns on here, so we could just mention a town at the end. So it really is just 5 each.
We're gonna do 5 each, and then a bonus. We're gonna think of a town that we both love.
So how about let's just start with what we think. Well, it's a head-to-head, so what you'll go first since you're the guest. What you think overall out of this is it. You have 100 to choose from. This is a lot of pressure.
Number 1 overall city. I have been to this city before, so I'm gonna have to go number 1 overall. Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, all right.
I don't think this is my favorite overall when it comes to just the things you can do. Because yes, in the winter it's freezing cold. Everyone hates it. And yes, there is a crime problem, but every city in the U.S. every city in the United States has a crime problem. And Chicago is obviously victim to that. But however, when Chicago has its good parts, it shines. They have a great downtown. And a lot of big cities like Chicago don't have great downtowns. Like when you think of New York, downtown Manhattan and some of those areas are not that great. And there's other downtowns that are not that great. But Chicago is a great downtown. They have River North, which is all the bars and restaurants. They have the Bean, which is the iconic. But also, there's not many, especially in the location that it is, where you also have a beach in a large city.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm not going to let you get past with the Bean, though. The Bean is overrated. I don't get people that go to the Bean.
I more use that as a
That's just proof you can make anything a spot to go to, and people will just sit there. Look where I am. It's a shiny circle.
Yeah. I will say also, city planning wise, I think it's a very walkable big city.
Yeah.
I also think the public transit is also very good. It's probably arguably one of the best behind. There's another city that I think is a little bit better. I also want to say that the food in Chicago is pretty comparable.
It's up there
to anywhere that's in the Northeast. It's a lot of variation. It's a lot of diversity. There's a lot going on in Chicago. There's a couple cons, but I think the pros outweigh almost everything overall.
Well, it opened up a spot where I feel like this is a pretty obvious chalk pick. You could definitely go through some negatives, especially nowadays, but I'm going to have to pick New York City, number one. I mean, Al and I, we went head-to-head in the states battle. He got to pick New York, which as a state, I actually don't think is that. I think it's overrated, but the reason why it could go 1-1 is because of New York City.
This might be a controversial thing to say, especially growing up in this area, but New York, I feel like, is just too big.
It's very compact, especially if you're going to Manhattan, and it can get a little overwhelming sometimes. But you're talking about diversity, not only just people, but foods, cultures, things you can do there. We just talked about Chicago's food. I think New York is just above it. It's got the best pizza. It's got chefs from all around the world. It's got great comedy that comes out of it. So many musicians have come out of New York. I mean, it's just iconic. There's so many sections. And this is I just mentioned Manhattan. I haven't even mentioned the Bronx. Shout out Staten Island. I know it gets a lot of hate. But shout out the Ferry Hawks. You got Brooklyn. You got Queens. I mean, the personalities there, it's just like no other. The views of New York City from where we live in New Jersey are beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's New York City. I feel like I don't even have to explain it at this point.
You need to have some thick skin going into New York City. And also, Chicago as a big city is really affordable. The average rent price, I think, is for a one-bedroom is $1,700, which is not cheap. But New York City, it's $3,000.
No, that's
so it's unlivable for people.
That is 100% the biggest downside of New York City is the prices. But there's a reason for the prices. I mean, you get all that, and the crime. The crime, especially after COVID, has not been great. People think of New York City, they think of Times Square. If you're visiting New York City for the first time, I mean, sure, if you want to get it off your bucket list, go there, but you gotta go other places,
Chelsea. Or...
keep it for Midtown Manhattan is just not where you want to be.
No.
It's New York City. I really feel like I can't say much else.
I think I'm going to immediately go to the West Coast for this one. I think people are thinking that I'm going to pick a different city in the West Coast.
I know where you're going.
The city that I'm going to pick is San Diego.
Yep. Dang it.
It's a smaller version of LA. I think it's very similar. Besides maybe the arts and culture, even though it does have some, it's just a better version of every city in Florida.
It's LA if you remove most of the assholes.
Correct.
Basically. Yeah, and it's cheaper.
The weather is awesome all year round. The beaches are great. The only downside to San Diego, I think, is just California being very expensive. But people keep forgetting the reason why California is so expensive is because it's the most beautiful place probably in the United States, which one can argue. But San Diego, I think, when it comes to cities in the West Coast and not just California in general too, just has a lot to do. I mean, you got the museums, which are, I think for the majority part, if I remember correctly, a lot of them are free. The San Diego Zoo, arguably the best zoo in America.
Yeah.
You can go up the Pacific Coast Highway. You can go to the beaches, which has a great amusement park that we used to go to.
Home of the Padres and Petco Park.
The downtown San Diego is very nice.
Yeah.
I've never been, but maybe it's not the safest. I still think it's kind of cool being that very close to another country.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of cool the fact that you could just go to Mexico for the day if you wanted to. You mentioned Padres. I think the sports, even though it's really just the Padres now,
they used to have the Chargers.
And I've heard, I haven't been to the Padres stadium, but I've heard it's a nice stadium.
Petco Park, it's nice.
So, I don't know. I think San Diego is a good choice.
Shout out the Impractical Jokers. They had their block party there in 2016. I'm going to go with the South. I'm just going to eliminate a couple things right off the bat. I'm not picking a Texas city. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you guys love, Dallas, whatever. I'm not going to pick you guys. I'm not going to pick really the Deep South at all. I'm going to go to one where most amount of people have moved here. Now, Max lives in Florida. He lives near the city, and he's probably going to have a laundry list of bad things to say about it because he knows more than I do. It's one of those rare cities in the United States that's tropical, and it has great music. It has great food. Why am I even drawing this out? It's Miami. I'm picking Miami number 2. I'm sorry.
From being and living near the Miami area, I think if you live there, you kind of understand the more of the cons than if you're just visiting in Miami. I think Miami has a shit ton to do, especially if you're into nightlife and beaches and the weather, obviously. But when you're living there, there's a huge poverty to wealthy ratio there that there's a clear line when you cross over a street, like from wealth to like poverty.
This is gonna sound insensitive, but at least there's palm trees to help it make it look a little bit better. That sounds so bad. Okay, basically it's just look, a fight for Miami right now is the beaches, it's the food, it's the music, and it's the weather.
Yeah.
So many people are going there to live there now. It's getting expensive. It's definitely getting expensive, but it's not as expensive as New York.
I think the average one bedroom is like $2,000. So it's not as expensive as New York, but it's getting there. The thing that makes it better is the taxes.
Chicago, you're out of Chicago. What are you really near? Like Miami, you got Boca Raton, you got Fort Lauderdale, you got, if you want to just go to the west side, you're close to, not really that close, but you're kind of close to Sarasota, Tampa. Not really.
Like 4 hours.
Like a couple hours. You know what I mean? But like if you're in Illinois, you're near nothing. So yeah, that's my number 2.
All right, I'm gonna go northeast here. I think I want to get this now because I think because of what Sam took in the northeast, this next one's would go probably soon. Is Boston.
I'm sure if you want to live in a 1-bedroom apartment that's $1 million surrounded by a bunch of racists, that's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's totally fine.
Terrible. But anyways,
I'm kidding.
The only thing that I think that it lacks a little bit is food, and I know people from Boston are gonna be like, "That's not the case."
Well, it has good seafood.
But yeah, it has. Yeah. But it has good other things that maybe New York doesn't have, like seafood. I know like the public transit's way better in Boston, and it's a lot safer and it's a lot cleaner. I think getting around Boston, like when you're going through different neighborhoods, besides like a couple on the south side of Boston, there's really no bad neighborhoods, especially like the downtown area.
I think it's the biggest city that has the greatest variance of walkability versus drivability.
Correct,
like the road layout for driving there is horrific.
It's horrific.
The roads were made in the 1700s.
Flying in and out of there is pretty good, and it's also pretty convenient if you're going to Europe because it actually cuts down time going. The other thing too that Boston like does really well in is sports. I mean, even though technically the Patriots are not in Boston, you count them in Boston.
I would say
Celtics, Bruins are dominant. You got Boston College, you got Harvard, you got Berkeley, you got Emerson, you got Curry.
Cambridge is nice too. That whole area.
You got the whole Cambridge area. You got UC Boston.
Berkeley,
UMass Boston.
Berkeley College of Music. Shout out our parents.
Yep. But yeah, so there's so much that you can do in Boston with a lot of people, especially if you're young. The weather, again, if you're living in the Northeast, it's going to be bad with the winters.
And I know New York is rivals with Boston, but I would say like both New York and Boston have a thing where like it's a very, like if something bad happens to the city, it's a very tight-knit community where they're all come out together as one. They're very strong people.
I think especially too, if you're going for education, like Boston's the place to get educated, so.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. I don't mind that pick. Midwest, that's a tough one because you have Chicago, and I feel like I just screwed myself. Like,
I mean,
you kind of screwed me there.
I've been to the Midwest more, so I have better picks that I can choose from. You haven't been to the Midwest enough, I think.
I think I've barely been to the Midwest unless you count Kansas City, which unfortunately I'm not gonna pick. I'm sorry. I would love to rep Kansas City. I just know people are gonna be like, dude, the crime rates there are insane. It's very cheap.
Yeah, but
the food's great.
You could pick it.
I'm kind of convincing myself to pick Kansas City, actually. You know what? All right, let's do it. What else am I going to pick in the Midwest? You have Chicago. I mean, you know all the good ones. I'll make the case for it right now, but I think if you just look, people are going to be like, Kansas City. That's such a random pick. Yeah. Okay, everyone knows I'm a Chiefs fan at this point. I'm wearing my Arrowhead shirt that I got in Kansas City. Shout out KC Marketplace. All right, here's my case for Kansas City. Now, I'm going to list the negatives right off the bat. There's only really 2 negatives in my opinion. One's the crime. The crime there is not great. But besides that, and also the other second thing is you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like once you get to the outskirts of Kansas City, it's right on the border of Kansas. The only other place you could really go is Overland Park, which is a nice suburb. Yeah. But the city itself, it's extremely underrated. I really do. If you want to go, if someone's like on a 50 state, they want to hit all 50 states. If you're going to Missouri, go to Kansas City. Don't go to St. Louis. I think Kansas City is extremely underrated. You got the beautiful view of Union Station when you go up to the World War I Memorial. They have great museums. They also have great food, not just the barbecue. Everyone talks about the barbecue. Barbecue's awesome. Top 3 barbecue in the country. I think top 1. A lot of really delicious American food there. Sports is the big one. I mean, obviously, the Chiefs right now. Even the Royals, like the Royals suck right now, but they go hard for the Royals. Yeah. There's a reason why they voted no on moving their stadium. They want them to stay put where they are.
I mean, the only 3 things you need to know about Kansas City if you want to visit there and you like want to know why it's good is food, neighborhoods, and sports.
Sports. Yeah.
That's really the big thing.
Museums. Museums are underrated though.
Yeah.
There's tons of museums.
There's lots
They also
of
have the cool streetcar that goes from Union
And it's
Station to the end of downtown all the way to oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm Riverside Market.
Yeah.
Riverside Market. They also have Country Club Plaza, which is really nice.
Yeah.
A bunch of
It's
high-end
all really
stores,
nice.
restaurants. It's beautiful. It's called the City of Fountains for a reason.
Oh.
I just think it's underrated. You have to really go there to realize how nice Kansas City is.
I have Northeast, so I need the South and the Midwest. Well, since you already took the Midwest and the South, I think it doesn't really matter what I go here. So I'm going to go with the South. People are probably going to be surprised because Texas is going to be left off the board here. Because first of all, I haven't really been to Texas. But regardless, I'm going to go with something in the South that I think is the best city in Florida. I'm going to go with Tampa.
I like Tampa.
Tampa's great. Tampa, first of all, if you look at the Tampa Bay region, St. Petersburg, I actually think is the better part of Tampa. St. Petersburg is an awesome town. It's got
some good
nightlife.
cities.
It's got a lot of bars, restaurants. The beaches on that other side with like Clearwater and even St. Pete are really beautiful. Arguably, people say that they're the most beautiful beaches in Florida. Tampa, great sports town. I do also think the culture in Tampa, when it comes to like the nightlife and the people there, are a lot better than Miami. Food-wise, probably not as good as Miami. I think that's probably the one thing that's like, there is good spots, but Tampa's not.
What are they known for? What's Tampa known for?
They're good with their Cuban food is pretty big there, which, again, Miami
Or even
has
not even
too.
food, like just in general. Are they known for anything?
Tampa's known for Gasparilla is the big festival there.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, they're not like anything that like you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Tampa specifically for that. I do think, and I know a lot of people say go to the aquarium in Tampa. Do not go to that fucking aquarium. That aquarium was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. They do a lot of like 4th of July fireworks across the river. Armature Works, which is like a big food hall at the end of the Riverwalk, is cool.
I don't know if I'm right, but it just feels like one of the cleaner cities. Is that true?
Parts of it, yes. I think some
It just
people,
looks cleaner.
I think people in Tampa will be like, "What was he talking about?"
Okay, never mind.
But I do think like when you compare them to the rest of Florida,
Yeah,
it
no, that's
is-
what I'm thinking.
I do think when it downtown wise, since neither of us are going to pick this, I think Orlando probably has the best downtown of Florida. For Florida City, it's getting pretty expensive, but if you live on the outskirts of Tampa, which a lot of people are moving to the suburbs because they're beautiful, I would say it's probably one of the best affordable cities in Florida too. So,
All right. Well, we just closed the book on the South. Shout out Atlanta. I feel like just quick shout out.
yeah, that's fine.
New Orleans. Also shout out Savannah. That was what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna pick Savannah. Okay. I'm gonna go with the Northeast. Newark, you're gone. Jersey City, you're gone. Syracuse, you're gone. Rochester, you're gone.
So there's all the
Baltimore,
trash
you're
bags.
gone. Philly, you're gone. Augusta, you're gone. No one's talking about Bangor, you're gone. Concord, everywhere in Connecticut, you're gone. Everywhere in Delaware, you're gone.
Yeah, Newark.
Newark.
Burlington.
Get out of here with that shit. We're out of good cities other than basically this one city left in the Northeast, which is Washington, D.C.
What I will say Washington, D.C. is good with is the public transit. I do think Washington, D.C. has a cleaner public transit than everyone in the Northeast.
Al, you're
but
looking at me like I just killed your entire family.
Worst food in America.
In America?
America?
Worst food in America.
Should I have picked Philly?
I also probably...
Am I shitting on
I
Philly
also-
right now?
I
Am I
also...
not shitting, sorry, sleeping on Philly.
We haven't been to Washington, D.C. in a very long time. Our cousin lives there, and I don't know how the food's like. So I'm just going to go off your word that it is the worst food in America. I hope people from D.C. find
No,
us out.
I
and-
went to DC
and rip his head off.
I went to DC and it wasn't great. The food wasn't great. I think it's a nice town, man. I like Georgetown.
Yeah. If you like crime, it's a great town. If you
Look,
like,
when
if
I
you like
think
the
of
worst
DC
sports organizations in the Northeast, then Washington D.C. is great. I think the only thing you can argue about Washington D.C. making it better than a lot of Northeast cities is that it's just super historical. Like just the
Good tours, there's good tours, great museums.
Yeah. I would say
Great
that
sightseeing.
the Smithsonian museums are probably the best in the country.
Give me your case right now for Philly over DC, other than food.
Well, sports. I think, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying better. I'm saying I think.
Yeah, but
if we're talking about passionate fans, they're better.
obviously, but
And also,
who do you want if
Philadelphia-
you're living there? We're basically picking places.
Philadelphia is the cheapest, probably Northeast city in
Yeah,
the
that's true.
Northeast.
But there's a reason.
But I don't think the crime is as bad as people think.
It's not even the crime. I just don't like the people there.
But that's like, yeah, I guess so.
I just don't want to be. I've been Philly. I don't want to be around
But
it.
Washington, D.C. is so goddamn boring. Like, when you talk to someone there, they're fake because they're in politics.
It kind of is boring. Fuck.
I will say Washington, D.C. is a pretty city to look at.
All right, here's the thing I want to say. I feel like I kind of got screwed because if you did not pick Boston, I would have picked Boston as my third.
I don't know. I think Philadelphia, the only argument to make, again, is the food. But I also think that, like,
It's a major city. There's food everywhere.
But there is a shit ton to do. Washington, D.C., I think Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia are pretty
Okay,
equal.
here's the thing. You're right. You don't have a lot of culture in DC.
Yeah. I don't know. There's not really an argument to make. I think Boston and New York are the best, and then everything else is like a C2
But like,
city.
if someone said, "All right, I snapped my fingers. You are now alone in a studio apartment in the city for the next 5 years."
You want to be in D.C.?
No. And you snap my fingers, and it's rather Philly or DC. I'm gonna be happier if it's DC.
Yeah, probably not. But
Why not?
the only thing you can do in D.C., if you're going to live there, is work in politics. And that's miserable. God forbid something happens to our nation. D.C.'s first.
All right, you're right.
Am I wrong? I will say D.C.'s got some good colleges.
The Liberty Bell is overrated. There, I said it.
I think they're both B tier, C tier cities. I will say, though...
What else was I supposed to pick?
I will say, everyone that I know that does live in D.C., our cousin Sophie, and
Shout
I have
out.
a friend, Freddie, that lives up there. I think they've both loved D.C., so there's got to be something. But I think...
went there. It's nice.
Look, I think we can both agree it's better than Baltimore.
Yes, yeah, Baltimore. We don't even have to argue right now.
Besides Camden
And
Yards.
Newark.
Yeah.
Newark, New Jersey. All right, Max, this is your final. This is it. You have
This
what do
is
you have
Midwest,
left?
right?
Midwest.
All right,
Now this is where you're gonna beat me because you know a lot about the
Now,
Midwest.
I don't know. Over the past couple of years, you can make the argument that this is not really that great of a city anymore because of after COVID, there was a lot of stuff that happened to the city that made it kind of, in some parts, a little tough to live. But I'm going to go Minneapolis. I think besides the cold, which is the biggest con there, I think there's nothing really that awful about Minneapolis.
This is your Kansas City pick, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Kansas
a lot
City
of
and Minneapolis are kind of canceling each other out here.
lot of cool neighborhoods. I think in general, outside of Miami, weirdly enough, I think the most beautiful people are in Minneapolis. I know people are going to think that's like the craziest shit ever.
Wait, you mean like good-looking people?
Yeah,
But,
I will
like,
say, if you've ever also been to the outskirts of Minneapolis, it's the land of 10,000 lakes. It's beautiful in Minneapolis.
all right,
in
you take away sports. You land in Minneapolis. What's on your itinerary for the week?
Mall of America. You can go to the falls. The parks in Minneapolis are beautiful. It's also named one of the most bikeable cities. So if you're like big into nature, that's huge. Again, I know you told me not the sports, but the sports are awesome.
No, I know. It's got one of the best stadiums ever.
Yeah, U.S. Bank Stadium. I am biased because it's a Vikings fan, but it is the best stadium in the United States. All these new stadiums that are popping up are because of U.S. Bank. You can also argue maybe Mercedes-Benz.
I was about to say the Falcon Stadium.
But
yeah.
U.S. Bank, I think, was the real iconic, like, new age arena that really kind of
I
added
think
all these other arenas.
Bank of America Stadium's up there. All right.
Terrible.
By the way, if we swapped teams right now, I'd be happier. I'm looking at it right now, and especially the people. Look, he's 2 years older than me. He travels way more than me. I'm an idiot. Like,
But who knows? People
people
not
know that he knows more, and I feel like I
But I don't know.
this is
People
bad.
might look at it and go, Minneapolis. Like, what the
Look,
fuck is
I got
that?
New York City. That's a big one, but
Look, you still got Fargo, North Dakota on the board.
I have
Boise.
I have Kansas City and DC. This is not great. This is
You
not
picked
great.
it over Philly.
Don't say it like that. It's close. I'm telling you.
There's a West Coast
People
city.
hate Philly. I'm not doing myself any justice, but I'm picking Las Vegas because we were
Alright.
born there.
Yeah, Las Vegas is a safe pick. I don't think there's really anything outside of Las Vegas that's like, oh, we'll go look at, this random museum. Like, no, you go there for the strip, and it's a fun time.
Look, if you want to do literally anything, go to New York City. If you want to party by the beach, you go to Miami. If you want to go gamble your life away, you go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
If you want to raise a family and get fat on barbecue, you go to Kansas City. If you want to do some money laundering, you go to Washington, D.C. Ow, I just pulled my fat. But yeah, Las Vegas.
Alright,
I
I
don't
like it.
have a lot to say about Las Vegas other than
It's
I
in
was
the
born there.
desert.
It's in the desert. I'm not picking L.A.
Cool.
I'm sorry.
It's cool. I mean, it's a fun time, and it's very cheap too.
Do we want to put any cities in trash before we leave?
Albuquerque sucks. Anchorage, Alaska. Like, I've never been there, but I've heard it's a shit town.
I don't know if it's on the list, but Rochester, shout out. You guys
Norfolk.
suck.
Like, what the fuck is in Norfolk? Gilbert, fuck that.
Toledo.
Greensboro. I think Raleigh is terrible. I know you said Charlotte you like. I don't like Charlotte.
You know what? I'm even going to say it's San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco sucks. Are we doing every city in Texas sucks except Austin?
Oh, yes. We'll shout out one quick town really quickly. Go ahead, Max.
So my real quick shout out town is named after a game show. It's called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico.
I didn't know you were going that route. I want to pick something cool now. I was going to pick something that's nice, that I like.
It's a really shitty city, I've heard, but
Truth or Consequence?
but it was named after a game show, so I thought it was pretty funny.
I mean, I was just going to say shout out Cape May, New Jersey. All right, well, that's it. One more rundown. I have New York City, Miami, Kansas City, Washington, D.C., and Vegas. Yikes.
And I got Chicago, San Diego, Boston, Tampa, Minneapolis.
Please comment down below who won this one. I already know what it is, but actually, let me know if you genuinely think I won, because I want to hear your opinions. Shout out 8 Pace Productions, our #1 fan. All right.
Shout out Dinosaur Texas in Texas.
Okay.
Texas.
Yeah, but that was it. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully we'll have Max on some more videos.
Comment, follow.
Yep, exactly. All the socials. And
You're
yeah.
watching at 11 p.m. at night. So
Yes,
do
of
all
course.
that.
All right, crying in your bed. All right, thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.